How many school buildings does 2 SROs cover?
So the 2 SROs in the 7th precinct, we have 36 buildings that we cover. So yes, it's a daunting task. It would be amazing to have an officer in each building, but it's really a staffing issue. The amount of police officers that would require just in the 7th precinct alone to do that is astronomical. So what we do is we respond to some of the 911 calls. Patrol is always responding, so every one of the sector guys that is driving around in their area knows their schools. One of the things that Heidi and I do when we train new officers is we bring them to the schools. We've been in Longwood, we've been in William Floyd. Those new officers walk around, they tour these schools, all right? And when they get to their sector, one of the first things they do is visit the school and learn not only the layout of the building, which is also available, as Homeland can tell you, in the vehicles, right? So if an incident is occurring, we can actually go into the computer system and bring up the layout of the buildings, all right? All these officers, the new officers, spend a week with us and they get some little extra training. We meet some of the security staff at the buildings, and they get a good idea of the layout of the schools in the precinct. Does that kind of answer?
No, you answered.
There's also a unit that works out of Yaphank, that has several SROs that work countywide and respond throughout the whole county. So each precinct has certain SROs, but the sub-county out of Yaphank has SROs as well that respond throughout the county in different precincts.
The SHARE program, SCPD SHARE program, can you tell me if the school districts within the 7th precinct participate in that?
There are some that do. I don't have the exact districts that are up and running, but yes, my experience has been across the county that they are very willing and proactive when it comes to our resources.
Okay, and that would be something as if they were notified that there was an active situation, they could tap into, if I'm understanding it correctly, this individual school's camera systems.
Yeah, so 911 call comes in, active shooter, it's confirmed it's an active shooter. Our criminal intelligence detectives have the capabilities to tap into those school cameras.
Thanks.
Yes.
Excuse me. Do the SROs with you like evaluate potential threats? I mean, is there a proactive program that's in place, you know, working with the administrators, kids who might be a little, you know, troublesome or even outside the, outside the school?
Sure, I'll kind of walk you through how a call is handled. So if the school district calls us, let's just say there was something that we handle quite frequently, a social media post, right? Lots of times there'll be a social media post, it's shared amongst the students, right? They all start passing it around, and at some point, some student brings it to the attention of administrators. So we'll go, we sit down with the administrators, and the first thing we'll do is start backtracking the posts and find out, all right, let's see if we can figure out who posted whatever the message may have been. Sometimes it's a threat. We find that around testing time, we get more of these things, so our Regents is coming out, things like that. Suddenly everyone wants to, say something negative about the school that would cause a police response. Sometimes in the hope of canceling the test, which rarely happens. But we'll sit down with administrators, we'll start calling students in, we'll try to figure out a backtrack. Lots of times the schools that we deal with, like I'll give you Longwood and Floyd since they're here tonight, they do a great job. They're 90% of the way done before we even get there. They start that, the minute that it's brought to their attention, the administrators themselves will start doing it. They have some great assistant principals and deans over there that do a great job of tracking down where the post may have came from. And if we do have a post that may have some criminality to it, we will take a report, all right? It's brought to our crime section, which are police officers that do an investigative aspect or role in a school incident. So we'll record it as a school incident. It'll be brought to the crime section, and then there's a whole procedure that they do from there. When we bring a report into crime section, a supervisor is notified as well. So you have a sergeant that's notified, crime section sergeant is also notified, plus an investigator is assigned. If we have a subject, usually a home visit will be done. All right, we'll do a home visit, and that after all that information is gathered, we'll kind of sit down and make an assessment to see if this was a legitimate threat, or if it was, someone, sometimes it's a 12, 10, 9-year-old that said something that was out of place, and sometimes a little education is needed, all right, and we speak to that student, try to get them back on the right path because they just said something stupid. All right, we've all been there where our kids do something that you just want to shake your head, you're like, I can't believe you just did that. Lots of times we have great cooperation from parents. A lot of the parents are phenomenal, so we all work together to try to get a good outcome. And then the discipline aspect of that is done by the schools. So if it's not criminal, if it doesn't rise to the level of criminal, and we debunk that there's any serious threat, the school district still has their disciplinary stuff that they go through, as if any other student would have been getting in trouble at the district. And as far as our side, if it goes past that and it turns into something criminal, then the investigators will follow through with that, and they'll notify the district attorney's office, who will make a determination if there are charges that need to be filed. Right? And also in that mix, we can make determinations to see if the household has weapons, what the past history looks like at the house, is there a tendency to violence? All those factors will weigh in. All right, and New York State has something called ERPOs, which is basically like an emergency order of protection, where we can go and remove guns from a house if we have a student or someone living in that house that maybe had made some threats. All right, we will go in front of a judge, file what's called an ERPO, and ask permission to remove the weapons from the house until at some point a judge decides that person can have them back. So there are a whole bunch of steps that come when Elise was speaking to this earlier. Nothing gets just written on a piece of paper and done. It's a long process, and during that whole process, we are keeping the school advised, and the security staff as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So are SROs seen also as kind of mentors and counselors of sorts?
Yeah, well, so the SROs, tend to be, they tend to be officers that like to work in the building with children and kids, right? And in my opinion, a good SRO is someone that can filter, right? We get a lot of things from a whole bunch of the school districts at the same time. We assess things, do interviews. A lot of the SROs are very experienced in the county, right? Some of your experienced officers work there. A lot of our SROs were former teachers, right? They were teachers at one time, and now they became police officers, and they get right back into the school districts. So that's kind of the job. We're a liaison between the school district and the police department, but we're also full police officers with arresting powers. So if there is criminality that occurs, we're there. Lots of times it doesn't even get to that level. Lots of times it's just we're another extension, another tool with the school to help get students on the right track.
So considering the unique environment of schools, do you believe that the current training for SROs is adequate?
I do like the training we do. There's an SRO school, so you just don't jump into this. You have to go to the police academy, and we have a training for the SROs. And that's like the first step. And then you actually have to go sit with your administrative staff at the schools. Every district has a little bit different on how they like to handle things. So you kind of get that feel. Heidi and I have been doing this for a long time. We've been working with Longwood and William Floyd for years. Too many years that we want to repeat, but we've been down there. And actually I started in Sector 713, which is bordering of the William Floyd School District. So when I first came on this job back in 2007, I was working with the William Floyd School District on a regular basis as the sector operator over there.
Nice. So there's sometimes a concern. We've all seen those videos where you see a SRO arrest a student in the classroom pretty aggressively. It seems anyway from people watching it. And so that there is this perception out there, and the presence of SROs lead to also the criminalization of minor disciplinary issues. We do have a lot of students in our schools, especially post-COVID, I put in quotes, with mental health issues, right? And how do you know if somebody is sitting in a chair and maybe having some disciplinary issues at that time? Is that treated just by the school? You wouldn't consider that criminal, right?
No, so We just have a new unit that started in the police department. It's called the Behavioral Health Unit, and I think we had them come and speak at one of the earlier meetings. So they're a tool and asset for us as well. We can bring them in if we have a student that may have mental health issues. The school district does a good job because they have a lot of resources to help those students. My wife is in a school district, another one. She works in special ed, so she deals with mental health quite frequently. So they do have a lot of resources to school to help those students get on the right track. They can bring in outside resources as well, without getting too technical. There's 504 plans and individual education plans. So there's all types of things that the school has and resources that they can use. And collectively, we try to do what's best for the student. And that's probably the difference between the regular police and the SROs. We're kind of there to assist and get the students on the right path. We're not looking to go in and arrest people. But I understand what you're talking about, seeing the videos of physical force being used on a student. It's always disconcerting, right? One of the things that we have too are now body cameras, right? So if I'm going to a school for some kind of incident that occurred, we have the option of turning on our body cameras so that it can be videotaped, so that the entire picture is seen. My one gripe against social media is a lot of the videos that you see are edited, right? And for instance, there are videos out there of students who have thrown like a chair at the police officer, and the only part you see is when the police officer tackles the student. You miss the part where the chair got thrown. So those things, the video cameras that now we have is a great tool for us to kind of show and paint the entire picture. And those things can be released to the public if there's a question.
Are you required to turn them on when did you initiate contact with a civilian?
So we're required to, patrol officers are required to wear them all the time. We will turn them on in a school district if we're going to take police action. If I go into a school district and we sit down with administrators and we're discussing a student, it may not be criminal at all. So I'm not gonna activate my body camera. So we will have meetings, just like this meeting here that we're having tonight, there's no body camera on recording, right? It's gonna be difficult for the public to give us tips like Drew was speaking about earlier with students that might be having issues or signs of becoming an active shooter. No one's gonna wanna do that on camera.
Yeah.
So yes, we do have protocols when we turn the camera on, but Heidi and myself, we can speak for what we do. Most of the time, when we're talking to administrators, if we're not taking police action and we're just there, handling sometimes an aided case, we're not gonna record that, all right? Yeah.
This may be for you, maybe for the superintendents. How do we, or how did the schools determine when that line is crossed between a disciplinary action that you guys can take and okay, now we're calling this criminal? Is it strictly when there's violence against another student or an administrator? Like, when do we then call it criminal and it's taken beyond the school administrator's hands and given over to the SROs?
So we don't determine, or my administrative team does not determine whether or not it's criminal. But in extreme cases where there would be unsafe acts that could potentially harm a staff member or a fellow student, we would rely on contacting the police department. It's, in my 10 years as superintendent, I can recall only one incident, and you might have still been, 2017 you graduated? You might have still been in the high school at that point when we had to have a student arrested by an SRO when there was an issue during the school day. So
Was that my graduation?
No.
Okay.
Those students.
Because I know we had something to go
We
on.
don't talk about that graduation.
Unfortunately, nobody got arrested for that. But yes, thanks.
And is it likewise for the Longwood?
Yeah, and I would also say one of the good things about Longwood and William Floyd is that we have similar populations. We share police precincts, which is also important, but we also work very closely together.
Yeah.
So sometimes when there's an incident involving discipline, an extreme case, what families will try to do is they'll move from one school district to another, and we'll be in contact with each other just to talk to each other. Hey, this is kind of what happened here. Here's how we can support that family moving forward to make sure that they're not avoiding the incident and just moving somewhere else and continuing the problem somewhere else. But I think the key part also, is the word resource and school resource officer. We're not in the business of arresting children,
Right.
as Mr. Costa just said. We support kids all day long. when the resource officers come in, what I think as a school superintendent is the best piece is they help us work with families. They're not your regular patrol officer who's coming in or a sector car coming in to respond to a unit. They know our schools, they know our buildings, they know our families, they know us very well, and they will default to us 9 times out of 10, unless and I can't even remember, one time I remember as well, a child getting arrested, and it really just came down to they had something that was illegal on them, or a crime being committed in front of the officers. But 9 times out of 10, we're working with kids, we're working with their families to get them the support that they need. It's not the videos that you see out there at all, where I can't remember any incident on Long Island where there's any video of a police officer getting physical in a school with a kid, because we take care of our house, we work together to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support our kids, and then the officers come in and they really, I can't imagine operating a school district without them, just for their knowledge of the community. Something as simple as 2 years ago, in the 6th, we had an officer shot in the community, and this just illustrates the benefit of the school resource officer to me. In an incident like that, you would expect that no officer would be thinking about anything but getting their brother to safety. The school resource officers made sure that every single kid in our community was able to walk home that day. They were in communication with us, letting us know what the scene was in the community, letting us know is it safe to bring our buses into the community, and we had officers even come out to the buses and walk kids home so that they felt safe. So that, to me, I use that example because that illustrates our relationship with each other.
And one of the benefits that, as Officer Ensign said before, the years that him, Officer Cummings, and Officer Polio have been involved in our school districts, they know the kids, they know the families, they know the administrators. It has not been a transient position, which has had an extreme benefit because our principals know them by name. They're welcomed into the schools. When they walk around the schools, like at our high school, we call it Coffee with a Cop. We have a coffee bar in the school. The police officers are welcome to come in, the principal buys them coffee, and they just stand in the cafeteria at times as SROs, just so they're seen in a light where it's not always about somebody breaking the law and needing consequences. The other point that was made before, since COVID, we have added more mental health staff in the form of guidance counselors, social workers, psychologists. We use the federal ESSER money to add those positions, and we move them into our general budgets because we understand what our children are going through. So every resource, whether it's the SRO, whether it's the COPE officer, whether it's our own mental health staff, our own security, they're utilized, proactively to help our students. Because we understand that the mental health crisis is real. It did not go away like COVID did. So, as Dr. Lohman said, they are a very, very valued partner in our school district.
Yeah, we try to go to, we don't just go there for problems too. So I go to the William Floyd football games and I cry when they beat Sachem, I get pissed, I cry, right? And we go to Longwood all the time. We do
And they beat them all the
games.
time.
I know, brutal. But the district attorney, his kids go to Sachem, so we'll see. We'll start locking up people from Longwood and William Floyd when it's talking football. But yeah, so we go to those events too, because we want the kids to see us, right? I just don't want you to be there when something goes wrong, there's a big fight or whatever like that. We want to be there all the time. We try to get in there as much as we can. And now, and I'll tell you how much it's changed. When I first got on, if I pulled up with the car in front of the school, their phones was ringing off the hook. Right? Why are they there? What are the cops there? What are the cops there? Now we park there all day, nobody cares. People walk by, hey, how you doing? It's just a normal, it's been a normal part of life now for the students. And hopefully it brings them peace of mind too. When they see the car out front, it's not what it used to be where like the rumor starts going around and everyone starts whispering. It's like regular to see us there all the time.
It's a good system.